All good sign.
This meeting is being recorded.
Well, now Facebook apparently gives me the notice that we are being recorded. Well, that is a new feature for the month of December here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. I'm Sandy Yannone, your host for today's program. And the first month's reading is always our Poet's Focus. And today, our Poet's Focus is on the word lighthouse. I happen to have gone to a craft fair in Guilford, Connecticut today, and I bought this painting of a lighthouse for our program today. However, if you've been to one of our Poets Focus readings before, you know that we use poetry to examine things prismatically. So, however, our featured poets and our folks who will be reading with us as we get to our wait list of poets will be interpreting that word lighthouse however they choose fit to cast that light through poetry in onto the program today. Well, just a little bit about Cultivating Voices Live Poetry before I turn us to our featured poets for today. Cultivating Voices Live Poetry began in March of 2020 in response to the shutdown of all the venues for poets to read in person during the pandemic. And we've been going strong for many, many, many Sundays since. And we now host 3 readings a month. Our first reading always is our Poet's Focus, where we take a word and examine it together through poetry. We look forward to always our second Sunday, where it's our new book showcase. And of course, our third Sunday is always our very wild card open mic. And this will be, this month's will be our special holiday open mic. Actually, it'll be a candlelight vigil for peace. I'll talk a little bit about that as we get to the end of the program today. I want to welcome everyone here in our Zoom poetry studio, ready to go, ready to share their lighthouse poems, as well as those of you who might be watching us here on Facebook Live. And of course, those of you, the hundreds of you who watch every week the recordings, we really appreciate that so many of you are devoted to the program, whether you can join us live or not. And of course, those recordings are available because of the devotion of Don Krieger. And while I mentioned Don Krieger, I'd also like to give my deep shout out to Kim Ports Parsons as well for all the support that she provides for the program. There it is, all the love that she bestows on the program behind the scenes and on the screens here to get our lists ready for the poets to read. Well, folks, we will be reading, our featured poets will be reading for up to 5 minutes apiece today. I'll be just mentioning your name and the person reading next, and hopefully all goes smoothly as we then would move to the waiting list, where it's one poem on the, if you're a waitlist poet today, and we'll get to as many of you as possible as we progress through the 90 minutes. I want to remind folks that the chat is available here in Zoom for your pleasure and support of the poet's reading. We are well known for a very generous and friendly and supportive chat. So please share your comments of appreciation respectfully and abundantly in the chat. And also, please feel free to use the chat if you have announcements about news about yourself as a poet, or links to your press if you have a new book that's out, or anything that you care to share, and that's whether you're a featured reader or not. We really are committed to getting as much news out as possible and supporting you as poets as we can on this platform. And finally, I'll just mention that if you are reading today and you feel that your poem might warrant some content notice for our readers, we ask that you please do provide that. And I leave it to your good discretion whether you feel that your poem would require a content notice in support of our listeners who may decide that they would need to mute so as to be able to participate fully in the program. Well, as I mentioned, today's program is on our theme of Lighthouse. And this just happens to be, it's the only one we still have. It's a stained glass version of a lighthouse that my dad made many, many years ago. It's called the Suncatcher. And this piece was called Sailing by the Light. And I would sell these in my parents' gift shop when I was 18, 19, and 20 years old in our little gift shop in Essex, Connecticut. So I thought I'd bring out as many images of lighthouses as I could today. Well, our first bearer of light for the Lighthouse program today is the one and only Amy Berry, and Amy will be followed by David Brydges. Amy, what a joy to have you opening the program today for Lighthouse. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hello, Cultivation Voices. Hello, all the members, and it's good to be here again. I'm reading from Ireland. It's very cold at the moment. I'm sitting in front of the open fire. So I'm going to read a few poems on the theme of Lighthouse. And this will be from my collection called Flirting with Tigers. And the first poem that I will be reading is called Tower Site Inspection at Esso Refinery. My hands are pure white. Perspiration falls from my helmet. The steel ladder stretches below 100 feet. A glance down and it becomes meandering ropes. The instrument engineer touches my hand. Boss, don't look down. Concentrate on the steps. We descend. Some men have failed. Ours maroon at the top. Until another, more assured, escorted them to the ground. Though slow, I am determined. My gaze is fixed on the distant sea. The Straits of Malacca glows. Sunset like a flame of the forest blooming outside my window. My head spins. My boots suddenly heavier. Both hands firm on the ladder. I measure out slow, controlled steps. On the ground, I slide the sweat-filled gloves from my fingers, grabs the hot red earth. Their eyes tell me a woman needs time to recover. But I dust off my hands and tell my engineers to get their hands dirty. I pull out a pen and complete the report. My next one is when I was at the hospital. To hear the result if I've got cancer. Rain. Rain brings good luck. Papa would say, I need it now through the blur of half-remembered prayers. Spider legs of rain crawling across the hospital window. My name being called again and again. My mind is numb, displaced, my body swaddled with a deathly ache. A tan Italian in a white coat holds a folder bearing my name, reassures me with a single word, Benny. Out on the streets, a busker strained his rocker's throat, singing, I don't want to die. I stand at a distance and sing with his song, his hair like tar in the pulsing rain. I breathe again. I feel Papa's presence in a fresh, earthy air. My next one is called Showtime, dedicated to this very brave lady. Showtime. Of social indiscretion and unfortunate times, Annie talks, sitting with legs crossed high at the dressing table. Her braceleted arms dangles over a high back chair, a thick cigar between her fingers. She breaks into a laugh as we chat, her voice husky, as if weighed down with summer heat. Soft, straight hair, a precisely wildered eyebrow pencil, another brush of mascara, cherry red lipstick, gold painted nails, 24-inch waist, in slinky scarlet cheongsam. These purred breasts belong in this body, whose skin is the color of honey. A pretty boy, they call her on the street, refusing to accept her. A head in the door says, "You're going on, miss." She stands assuredly. She. Thank you, everyone.
That is the ever delightful Amy Berry. Flirting with Tigers is the newest collection. And feel free to put that in the chat, Amy, as well. Thank you so much for starting us off today, folks. It's Cultivating Voices, live poetry. It's our Poets Focus on Lighthouse. Our next reader is the formidable David Brydges. I heard your little chuckle there when I said formidable, David. Followed by Ken Burch. Welcome.
I can't deny that at times. But Sandy, I'm throwing that back to you just in a second here. I've straight and stretched the theme of Lighthouse, but there is a line in this poem about that. But this is a timely poem because it goes back to last month's open mic when I was rummaging through my old notebook and found a poem about the 60s and Jim Morrison, but Sandy posted something. Sandy, in her big open mind, no alliteration there, posted something to the effect that, oh, so good for old book notes, notebooks, which became the prompt for this poem. Ode to old notebooks. Old notebooks, a literary lighthouse without a light, helping lost vessels of verse. Old notebooks, inert since the alchemical firestorm left only heart ashes. Old notebooks, residues of grander expectations. Old notebooks, the poem you didn't write, buried in an avalanche of distractions. Old notebooks, the poem you did write, from rearranging partial pages of roots. Old notebooks, a precious sanctuary of privacy from too much extroversion. Old notebooks, our second brain, pacifying inspiration's word warriors. Old notebooks, legless, amputated by apathy's chainsaws. Old notebooks, a paper trail of wandering expeditions. Old notebooks in winter hibernation until someone sings spring. Old notebooks, a relegation relic. Old notebooks, a fortified fortress of fragile fragments we label the past. Old notebooks, graffiti from walls of your mind. Old notebooks love sleeping and contain dream segments that didn't get away. Old notebooks, fed and fattened, cannot stomach another word salad. Old notebooks, a chaotic collection of chaos no AI could ever organize. Old notebooks, a thrift store of treasures whose precise location is a mystery. Old notebooks, a friend who always accepted my writing. Old notebooks are a toilet bowl for mental excrement. Old notebooks, where fallen angels start a comedy club. Old notebooks, although clothed in laments, need a naked prompt. Old notebooks, a fossil coming alive when whispered the secret code. Old notebooks, your hand turns into a pencil when you hear the password revisit.
Absolutely fantastic. And I couldn't agree with you more, David, that those old notebooks, they are lighthouses. They are these beacons. And dare I say, I'm going to ask Kim to make a mental note with me. We should do a whole program on poems that we have culled from our old notebooks in the future.
Notebook.
Yes, yes.
Notebook. We do notebook. There it is.
They can be found poems. Like you can
Absolutely.
make pieces. You don't have to make one poem. You can make pieces of poems that you found or have you written. And yeah, there's lots of stuff there.
Yep. I could. Mary Ellen's here. Mary Ellen might remember. I was doing a talk in Ballard, Washington, where I had pulled out lines from one notebook and pieced it all together. I called it a self-cento from your own notebooks, from your old discarded drafts. So there we go. Next year, we're going to do notebooks. There we go. Thank you so much, David, for throwing the prompt right back at me and us generating a whole new prompt for the future. That's how we roll here at Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. My mom's sitting here behind me. We're going to move from David Brydges. Thank you so much. I love the mind of Ken Burch, and I love where Ken Burch's poems take us. I'm really looking forward to hearing how you are going to interpret Lighthouse today. Thank you for being here.
Well, good to be here, Sandy. Hello, everyone. This first poem was a kind of a free write I just did in the last minutes before the broadcast. It was on the literal idea of Lighthouse, which is something that's actually, you don't know this about me, but I was born on the Oregon coast, and the idea lighthouses were always there, and something about them always stayed in my consciousness. I've never written a poem addressing that directly, but this is imagining the things a lighthouse keeper, whether literal or metaphorical, might secretly think. From this place, rock-locked, sea-locked, at times fog-locked, at times nothing at all can be seen from each direction. You cannot be sure to guide as you are meant to any vessel to or away from the harbor for which you exist to guide them. At times, you may feel you can say or do nothing to bring any craft, from the tiniest rowboat to the most sea-agile trawler, to the most heavily stuffed freighter, to the most arrogant, privileged, glutted ocean liner with its wealthy retirees in matched corporate sport shirts, to anything like safety, and may, in your silence, wonder if they deserve it. At times, you may be able, whether you wish to or not, to bring survival to them all, whether they deserve it or not. And you may take the hours of calm seas between shores without visitors, ponder whether you should use your tools to guide any of them or not. You will never, of course, actually leave any to their doom, however well earned, but you will always think about it. So there's that. And this is a poem on, maybe it ties into this on the idea that poets are always in a lighthouse kind of surveying the world. It was actually kind of a politically engaged poem that I wrote that was handed out a couple of weeks ago at a die-in at the Capitol Mall in Olympia about the war in Gaza. And let me, before I go into this, say this does have some images of wartime violence. Let me also say, anyone who knows me should know this, but I'm nothing like an apologist for Hamas. I hate the leaderships on all sides of this, basically, as I always hate leaderships. And it's just sort of try to incorporate all of that. This was handed out to the die-in. It's a haiku cycle called Gaza on Aisle 5. 1. As you seek your gifts, bargains, treasured for a time, know how safe you are. 2. Yet in other lands, weaponry from where we are falls upon the strip. 3. Know that as you feast on the food court's bill of fare, Gaza is starved, destroyed. 4. Ordnance produced here turns its healing towers now into piles of bones. 5. Hospitals designed to bring all to birth, save lives, now just open tombs. 6. Infants just brought home will not live to walk, to dance, sing, or fly, or dream. 7. Early years should be a sweet magical garden, not all they have. 8. 14 or younger, 2 of 5 of Gaza's souls. What could they have done? 9. Religion, culture, neither is the point at all, only land and greed. 10. It cannot be hate just to shout, this can't go on, everything must change. 11. All the leaders share in the blame for what's been done. All must be removed. 12. Go on, by the gifts, but know now you're part of this. What wounds one wounds all. 13. May this nightmare end with a newer way to live. May a newer way to live rise from this, and soon. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, that is Ken Burch. I see why that poem was shared with so many. Another very powerful use of poetry. And I love knowing that about you, Ken, about you growing up just with your consciousness about the, being around lighthouses and not really knowing how much it had impacted you. I feel very similarly too, because there's a lighthouse here in Old Saybrook, and I didn't realize how much it had really kind of become part of my fabric until we were getting ready for, well, this past year. So
Yeah.
it's really, really interesting.
The Northwest and New England have a lot of common resonance in that.
Yes, yes, they absolutely do. Well, thank you. Folks, if you're just joining us, you are listening to Cultivating Voices live poetry. It's the first Sunday of the month, and that means it's our Poets Focus, where today we are examining poetry through the lens of the word lighthouse, as our poets are interpreting it. And we move next to Isaac Cohen, and Isaac will be followed by Gordon Ferris. I hope you are very well, Isaac, and I'm always humbled to see you on the screen.
Yes, dear Sandy, dear Kim, and dear Don. Today is sad time, but sometimes it's happy. Sad because many people of Israel was murdered and injured and kidnapped, and happy because the people of Israel with hope to rebuild the settlement that destroyed. And people of Israel was born to tears and happiness. So we must to look to the future and hope that the time will good and the peace will come. My poem is Isaac Cohen, Lighthouse. You are in the lighthouse, sweet and happy. My eyes are luminous in the house. Yes, the lighthouse is my body, and you reside there forever. Thank you, Isaac Cohen, Israel, and I hope all my friends come with me and maybe bring the the babies that 10 months feel babies to his family and bring him to Israel. Thank you.
That is Isaac Cohen, everyone. And I can't help but notice that the light is beaming above your head. That the light is beaming
Yes.
above your
Yeah.
head. Okay. So I see that. I see that. It doesn't go unnoticed.
It's almost like an orb.
It's almost like an orb, my mom says, which
Oh.
orbs are very
Yeah. Thank
sacred,
you.
very sacred. Thank you, Isaac. Peace, peace.
Thank you.
Well,
Yes.
we move from Isaac to Gordon Ferris, another person that I know is filled with deep, deep light. And Gordon will be followed by Billy Brown, another person filled with deep light. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Welcome, Gordon.
Hello, excuse me. I'm going to read a poem called "The Silver Spoon." It's fairly recent. Today, I was reminded of a small stream called the Silver Spoon. A stream as a child I used to jump across on the way to Conquer Hill. A stream long gone underground, like a lot of our old beauty. It disappeared, becoming a thing of our past. A thing that used to be our everyday, now a vague, rippling reflection in the flowing baby river. Today I was reminded of an ancient rune in the center of a forest, transformed in our child's mind to a jungle in our war games play. All gone underground now, replaced by houses, factories, or places that generate finance. No place for wandering childhood, escaping the adult world, or to hold off the demons that inhabit the ground of world, the demons etched on the faces of all that have left their childhood behind and marched onwards towards the shadow of respectability and responsibility. And this is a poem called "The Dog Sleeps." Dog sleeps on the floor. I watch its breath rise and fall. Its paw jerks suddenly, a dreaming gesture, reassuring me she still exists. You're getting older now. You struggle with some things. You had to be helped into the car. You struggle rising from sleep. But when loved ones appear, you forget your pain. You love deeply, unconditionally. You would die for those you love. And I'm going to finish with a poem that I wrote for this event. It's called "Guiding Light," and it uses the word lighthouse. The first letter of each line spells out lighthouse. It's only wrote it yesterday, so it needs a lot of work. Guiding light. Longing to be able to speak to you, I walked in your direction, looking at you, glued by my dry tongue to the roof of my mouth. I glued my dry tongue to the roof of my mouth. Hoped you didn't notice, though from your eyes this was highly unlikely. Honesty always the best policy. Out of there as quick as possible. Under a cloud of sweat and steam I ran, swallowing my pride, what was left of it. Exit home to the silent, whispering walls. Light from across the still water, in and out of view, going on and on and on, high up into the sky it goes. This is the temptress of the shore, holding you in her gaze, out and away from the rocky shore, onto the path of peace and calm. Searchlight guiding you on your path, earthbound forevermore. Thank you.
That's Gordon Ferris. I love the acrostic, using the acrostic. That is just, as I wrote in the chat, genius. And there's so much in that poem. Keep working on that poem. That is a great poem. I love it. Fantastic. And also to bring our consciousness to how much light our animal beloveds bring to us, how much inner light they cast with us. Such great just a poem of a great reminder of that as well. Thank you so much. That's Gordon Ferris, everyone. And now, very curious, of course, to see what Billy Brown will bring to the program with Lighthouse today. And Billy will be followed by Ports Parson. Hi, Billy.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for this wonderful meeting that I've so much enjoyed over most of its existence, certainly over the last 3 years. It's a surprise to me that the keyword is lighthouse. I've been thinking about the word light for the last 2 or 3 weeks and formulating thoughts of light. And this was stimulated by light I saw from the northern window out of my study into the garden. So seeing light from my house window, I suppose. It's called Northern Lights. What soft light through my north window glows? Is it simply the dawn sunlight reflecting off pink winter cumulus clouds? Nay, much, much more. It is the referred twinkling light of millions of candles flickering from grieving Israel. It is the angry, brilliant blasts of thousands of deadly Israeli bombs and missiles avenging each Israeli death with 10 innocent Palestinian lives, women, children, non-combatants, unfortunate to live in the midst of Hamas. It is the reflected fire of deadly explosions of Russian invaders and Ukrainian patriotic defenders. Is this the only light I see? Nay, it is also the brilliant smiles of my daughter Elizabeth and so many others who were crash victims, smiles of my mother, my brother, sister, my friend, Miss Massel, of Paul Woodruff's granddaughter Jane, and millions of others taken from us by illness. Can this be all the light I see? Nay, it is also, most importantly, the lovely smile of my sweetheart Sandy, toiling in the garden, nurturing apples, peaches, apricots, tomatoes, raspberries, potatoes, green beans, peas, radishes, celery, honey, flowers, and all the joy of our beautiful life together. Thank you.
All that light, Billy. All that light. All that light. Wow. All that light. Amazing. Amazing. And
that was stimulated by seeing the soft pink light through that window early in the morning at dawn several weeks ago.
Yeah. And as you have reminded us, and as you know, as Gordon reminded is in his poem, you know, our bodies are our own lighthouses, and like we are in our own lighthouses, and then we are in the body of our lighthouse, inside of our own lighthouses, as we look out toward light, often, as you did to craft that poem. Thank you so much. Well, Kim Ports Parsons is next, and I think you're going to be reading a poem that I had a preview of, and if that's the poem, it doesn't matter what poem Kim reads. Hold your horses, everyone, as they say. Hold your horses, whatever poem it is.
Well, thanks
Welcome.
everyone
And Kim
for,
will be followed
yeah.
by Saige England. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, I've got those. I put those names in now because I'll be distracted. My first poem, I'm going to read two, comes from my book, The Mayapple Forest. And when I wrote this poem, I was really inspired by how the natural world, and I mean really particular things in the natural world, a bird, a bee on a flower, a beautiful tree, demonstrate the importance of embracing the now, the paradise of this earth that we are on that's so easy to forget. And later on, as I reread the poem and shared the poem at readings and things like that, I thought to myself, oh, I'm also writing about poetry. So there's a phrase in this poem, a lighthouse made of sound. And I realized that is a definition of a poem for me. And so thank you all of you for shining your lights today. So the first poem is called Life Goals, unattainable, but anyway, the title's Life Goals. To see the way a coneflower sees a carpenter bee vibrating with hunger and need. To need the way a stone requires rain, wind, time, and gravity's pull. To pull the way a birch pulls from its core without practice or instruction, bends to grass with grace, forgiving the wind's trespasses. To forgive and hold firm as the goldfinch on the thin, swaying stalk of millet in March. To shine as this same finch when summer comes, flashing sun on broken glass, loop of golden air. To hear the way the mole hears through every hair, the next shining moment of the underground day, a lighthouse made of sound, life at the root. So, yeah, to be the mole, to be the mole, tunneling through the earth. So, okay, the second poem is a fairly new poem. It's, bear with me, it's going to move around in time a lot. It's called Scientists Say Space-Time Churns Like a Choppy Sea. The world is burning, my husband declares this morning, staring at the smoke from Quebec flooding the garden. Scientists say space-time churns like a choppy sea, I reply, looking up from the news. Of course it does. Now Canada's boreal forest flames, and now, years ago, Australia incinerates. For months, heat rages the Southwest, and now last summer, Oregon wildfires etch warnings in the rings of red cedars. This earth is bobbing on a vast ocean of interrupted and folding time, marked by the wavery tick-tock of pulsars, cosmic timepieces. Like my first caught firefly, always a blinking lighthouse in my cupped hands. Between my thumbs, the eternity of a warm evening flashes on and off until it slips through and loops over the twilight garden, one drop in a floating harbor of lightning bugs, navigating an ancient starry waltz. Now another June, I steer through the rocky shoals of grief, casting my mother's ashes into the shallows of trees and plants, blessing the soil as she wished, her presence a beacon above the swells, an unexpected grace. Still the mercury climbs its spiral stair. For days now the burnt sienna Cecropia moth follows the smolder of the female's pheromones, consumed by purpose, till at last, yesterday, after thousands of years, evolve to collide and ignite, they fuse to each other and cling. For just a fortnight, their bright stripes flare in the green half moons of their wings shining, a flickering double helix dangling from the not yet sparked goldenrod. Life passes through the lens of her, and she lays her hundreds of eggs. The lilies grow orange next July. Sunflowers blaze last August. Smoke deepens across the valley. Each fire a signal from a momentary tower. We are here, we are gone, we are here, we are gone. Thank you. Peace, love, and poetry, everyone.
You know, I had heard the poem before. Well, I thought I was prepared for it, and it still got me. That's Kim Ports Parsons, everyone. There we go. There we go. A little chime there. Thank you so much. The book, the collection is the Mayapple Forest, Kim's debut collection, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a new collection sometime in the future. Of course. And folks, a reminder, if you're reading from one of your collections, whether it be a debut or at any time in your career, chapbook, full-length collection, feel free to put that in the chat as we are listening today. You know, we're not doing all the full bios and the links, but we certainly want to encourage, if you're hearing someone's poetry that you are appreciating and you'd like to get a collection, that might be a way. And this is the season of giving, so a poetry book to a beloved is a fantastic thing to bestow upon another human. So feel free to purchase poetry books with abandon this season. Well, next we'll hear from Saige England, followed by Gary Lilley. I'm grateful to have you here with us today, Saige. Welcome.
Kia ora. Thank you very much. This is my first time reading on Cultivating Voices. I come over from Lime Square, which I regularly attend. I live here in Aotearoa in New Zealand. I'm descended from persecuted people and also from persecutors. And I guess one wee thing I've been thinking about, and I've been thinking about it quite deeply, listening to Kim's poetry and contemplating in silence, is, I guess, thinking about my ancestors. I would choose for them that they chose welcome, that they choose respect, that they choose return, that they choose love, they choose peace. So this poem, I only realized this morning that we had a theme and it was Lighthouse. So I've scribbled this up this morning. Farewell Spit. Now my mother lived across from a lighthouse, so this is influenced by that, and I guess what's going on now in our world. Farewell Spit Lighthouse. A shawl-wound siren solitary stands at the northernmost point of the southernmost isle, June stranded on the sanded line, as though a sailor hoiked her from a ship. Farewell, the wind mourns, but welcome is the light from a lantern hung in a star-studded window, a light to welcome them home, to welcome sail-clad woman wading the wake, jaws set square against shards whipped by a man-made storm, and women still come this way, building nests from the hearth, shepherdesses of the sea, herd children from swamps, and at night, outside a ring of rocks, net stories of turbaned sailors. These shawl-clad sirens sing stories of olives and mandolins, sing wave-washed from rocks to dunes, from ocean to shore, from shore to shore, up and out, all the light to save our souls. Thank you.
Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful poem. I can't imagine living across the street from a lighthouse. The songs of light that you must have seen, and heard and watched over the years. Amazing. I think you could you probably have and will continue to fill notebooks of poems with that. Thank you so much. Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful poem. I love it. That's Saige England, everyone. And I love to always give a shout out to Lime Square Poets. I know that y'all just celebrated your kind of end of the season reading, or one of them this year, for this year. And if you've not been to Lime Square on Thursday evenings, if you live across the pond from where I live, it's the evening, and usually afternoons in the States. Check your time zones, friends. It's a very, very welcoming and exquisite reading series. You get to hear the voices of Ireland and Scotland and England, and American poets often thrown in there, and just amazing voices of poetry with the amazing poets that are publishing in those countries as well. Any of their features, any of their readers, open mic readers, could be features anywhere worldwide on any day. So it's an incredible open mic to participate in. That's Lime Square Poets, with your hosts, Dora Seifer and Lauren Kavanaugh. Thank you very much. Well, apologies, I skipped the line for a moment, but we're back in alignment. Kim Tedrow is next, then followed by Gary Lilley. My apologies, Kim. And it's always a great day when we have two Kims on the open mic. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. This is my first time reading at Cultivating Voices, and I want to thank Sandy and Kim for providing this space. I'm a somewhat sporadic attendee, and I have never read before, but the theme of Lighthouse caught my eye. In the 90s, I lived on the East Coast in the Washington, D.C. area. And in the early 90s, I had this torrid love affair with a guy in Newport, Rhode Island. And we spent an evening in the Rose Island Lighthouse, which is also now a B&B. And it was a magical night. It was just absolutely magical. And I still write about those moments some 30 years later. And in my study, I have a photo of it. And the first poem I'm going to read is an ekphrastic poem on that photo of the lighthouse. The photograph is black and white because I wanted it to be artful. I knew to shoot the horizon high, let the water dominate the foreground. I let the lighthouse be a ghost, the wall under it an absence, the dark rocks of the island a hand that cradles it. I knew to keep him out of the shot so as not to obstruct. One can't tell whether we move closer or farther, only that we must move. Everything turned in that moment, the arrival and the departure. I didn't know it was the last time I'd see the island. Now I am the ghost there, supply color from memory. And there was a moment that night where and it's important that that moment happened when I was alone, where I felt, it's where I go when people say, go to your happy place. I go to that moment in my life where I just felt completely content and happy and kind of at one with the environment. And this is me looking back on that moment some 20 years later. And the title of the poem is 20 Years Later. I am back in the Midwest, Nebraska of all places, and you're in Connecticut winning awards. What couldn't I tell myself then, glazed with passion, the moon tagging me down the coast? These days, she creeps through my kitchen, shines the sink dry, a spirit in sensible shoes. That night on the island, after dinner, before you stepped from the lighthouse, I stood alone, held the space between moments, loved what the water did to the darkness. I will never love the prairie like that, not like I loved the wait, being alone in the fog, the sounds of gulls, bells, foghorns, and bluefish feeding in the dark. Thanks.
Oh my gosh. Kim, I can't wait for your next reading and your next reading and your next reading. And if the only thing you ever share with us are poems about being at the lighthouse, I will be forever grateful.
Thank you.
Those were
A whole
phenomenal.
scrapbook manuscript full of them.
I can see why you were drawn to today's program. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening, being part of Cultivating Voices. And thank you for having this be your first day on our Lighthouse program and sharing those poems. Amazing. That's Kim Tedrow, everyone. Thank you so much. Well, now, up next, Gary Lilley. Gary Lilley is a lighthouse, there's no question. So I'm curious as to Gary's interpretation for today. And Gary will be followed by Diane Knox. Thank you as always, Gary.
Thank you.
Your presence, your amazing presence and your poetry.
Thanks, Sandy. You know, I want to thank you. I want to thank Kim, and I want to thank Dawn for, for like keeping this all together and for what you do and stuff. I think every time I had a chance to share a poem here, it's been wonderful for me to share it, and I love sharing new work. So that's that's the deal. So this is Belvedere. This is where rural Black folks live. The superintendent of Sunday school. It is believed that at her age, with her title, her faith, she's synonymous with saint. She's a full moon of backwoods opulence, a blackwater swamp that promises a continual catfish stew. Almost 20 years it has been since my mother came back down here to live from New York. And now she is dying. She's been dying for some time. And here she is, 84 and proud, beneath one of her royal regal church crowns, behind a leather-covered steering wheel of her harvest gold Grand Marquis. A low-ground blessing of liberation is the power of an old woman driving. She knows that, and gives her keys to no one, not even me. The boy down the road who cuts her grass every Saturday, he makes sure that her sedan is on the sinless side, clean and gleaming. He doesn't leave that to God on a chance. He rubs that metal until it squeals like Gabriel's saxophone. And it's a holy transformation, parked in the sanctified sunlight. And this next poem is Ars Poetica. I have several poems with that title, and I'll probably keep on doing that. So, but I'm only going to read one of those today. Ars Poetica. My vehicle is older than anybody else's in my entire family. The elders, siblings, cousins, and all. I don't want a whip that I would worry about taking a dent in the Safeway parking lot. I drive a 94 Ford Explorer Sport because it runs good even though it's 30 years old. And the motor stutters. It has a ragged rhythm until it warms up. It also has a few never buffed out scratches due to me driving through brush on abandoned logging roads. And it's usually dirty. My friends tell me I should clean it, do some revisions. My hands were full, so I laid the spring back binder with my new manuscript of poems that I thought about titling Doing Life in the Prison of Hard Times or The Last Words of Judas Goat. But I decided not to and laid it on top of my battered vehicle when I put the old Seagull S6 guitar in the cargo space. Heading to a poetry reading 42 miles away to read with two other poets who both had very beautiful poems about hummingbirds and stark naked poems about war. I was hoping to be as good as them, if not maybe as beautiful. I was taking my guitar to warm the crowd. Since I wasn't the headliner, I felt it was my poetic duty, but I have written poems about troubles, such as the aftermath of hurricane and flooding in New Orleans. I traveled down there to gut houses and remove the debris. My cat Ace in the passenger seat, chilling in the humid highway hum. Those were some of the Louisiana poems I'd planned to read, and I thought that whoever was at the reading that I was going to might like poetic songs as much as I do, even though I know that usually folks on the west side of this country dig songs and poems about nature, probably as much as they like elevated ice cream, dogs on foot, and killer whales. That's when I moved to change the CD in the stereo and happened to glance in the rear view mirror and see the pages of my manuscript in the windstream behind my vehicle. It looked like flying birds were following me. And the mist that falls daily before it becomes the evening winter rains in this one-time land of old growth forests was now dampening my roadside poems until they stayed where they fell and belonged to everyone, just as I've always intended. Thank you.
I was screaming, yes, yes, yes. When we got to the end of that poem, my mom heard me. Oh my gosh. Yep. You're a lighthouse. You're a lighthouse. You're a lighthouse. Never forget it, my friend. Never forget it.
Thank you. That poem, I mean, that's the actual, I was going to a reading and
That's
had my
incredible.
manuscript on top of my car, you know? And
I love that they become the birds, you know, that's so great. I mean, it's not, but you know what I mean.
but it was good.
Yeah, but it's good.
I mean, like I
I
recovered
mean,
from
that
that.
had to
Yeah,
happen.
you know.
It
So,
was good. It was good to get that image out of it. Absolutely.
and I got a poem out of it too.
There you go.
So, there you go.
There you go. You know, I think Ars Poetica would be another great poet's focus for the future, you know, because as you have demonstrated, it's okay if we write more than one in our lifetime. It's okay to keep writing those poems. That's Gary Lilley, everyone. Thank you so much, my friend. Be well. We'll see you soon. I'm grateful for every voice here today and how wonderfully prismatic has our reading on our Poets Focus for Lighthouse been. Just like a little twirling lighthouse. Oh my gosh. Our next twirling lighthouse is Diane Knox. I'm very happy to have you as one of our features today.
Hi there. 6 years ago today, I was a keeper of the lighthouse. And if you have a chance, please do it. Go to New Dungeness Lighthouse and check it out. It gives you all the information. So while I was there, of course, I wrote, and this is kind of an overview of the whole thing. It's called Lighthouse Keepers. 7 women, 7 keepers, 7 restorative days keeping the New Dungeness Lighthouse on the Salish Sea in Squim, packing in all our food and drink, taking turns as cook of the day, healthy foods shared in the dining room. One duty, greeting visitors who have chosen to walk 11 miles round trip on the spit, then an additional 74 steps to the top of the lighthouse, where we nightly polished the brass. Late afternoon drumming, Tai Chi in the main floor museum, silk pot making in the basement of the keeper's house, creating ankle bells for drumming, coloring, board games in the evening, prompt poetry writing in the living room of our quarters, rubber boots and flashlights on a nightly search of the beach for creatures, simply sitting, a favorite pastime. Dropped off at low tide by 4-wheel drive, packed out, picked up, and delivered home the same, but not. Our relaxing, the silence echoed in our eyes. And this is called Lighthouse Evenings. Each tucked away in her own corner of comfort, Sheet and quilt invite some, surf and silt invite others. Warmth flowing over toes to head, wet flowing on sand to beach. Invisibles climb stairs, leave doors open. Star creatures imprint pools, invite observation. Ebb and flow, drumbeat of our week, come together, then spread our new speak. Inward travels show aside, each has comfortably tucked away. And finally, this is strewn beach, and if you've seen our spit, it's all logs that have washed ashore. It's heavenly. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. Strewn beach. Stepping gingerly over strewn logs from Asia, slammed by boiling waves, lifting tons of wood, spreading random patterns of gray, mixing with kelp, landing on stone. Our lives bearing weight we sometimes cannot. Our feet lightly step through stones thrown in our path. Thank you.
Well, this was a reading made for you, Diane. This was a reading made for you, and you made the reading. I love it. I love those poems. I've been to Squim for only the first time ever, just this past. I lived in the Pacific Northwest for 22 years, but I was only in Squim and I saw the area that you were writing about, the lighthouse. And it is a most spectacular part of the planet. Oh my gosh.
It's right outside my door.
It's incredible.
And I have a guest room.
Well, next time I will come knock on your door for sure. It would be my amazing privilege and pleasure. Thank you. Well, our final featured reader, everyone. I'm going to try to keep us moving along because we do have a lot of people on the waiting list. Is Jennifer Elise Wang. Always great to have you with us. Thank you so much.
All right. So hi, I'm Jennifer Elise Wang. I come from the occupied lands of the Jumanos, Wichita, Kickapoo, and Tawakoni, also known as Dallas, Texas. I'm just going to do one, but it's a contrapunctal, so it's kind of a 3-in-1. And it's kind of my personal lighthouse. I had a really bad day this past fall when I had come back from, you come back from vacation and life kind of sucks after that. And then on top of that, I had like a really scary like threat that morning. And so I wound up tuning in to one of my favorite musicians' Instagram Live. And it was also the day of the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival. So this is kind of listening to him talk about the moon and then thinking about the moon, that became kind of my lighthouse. And so the title is Otsukimi, which is moon viewing in Japanese. So I'll read first column, second column, and then the poems together. My morning is the burden of modern life, shaking my whole being out of a fantasy of innocent times I long to return to, and a desire to belong again. No one understands the wishes I write within my poems, and I am so alone and tired. Thus, I welcome the enveloping night and nature's sign that we are all together. We survived this day. Your night greets a single soul in quiet reflection of an adventure across the globe you just returned from. You'll share to any ear, even if the denotations of your words are inferred. So many love you, but you've had to fight off hot tears too. Look up at the moon, luminescent and whole, for the message of your impromptu song. Tomorrow will be good. My morning is your night. The burden of modern life greets a single soul and shaking my whole being out of quiet reflection of a fantasy of innocent times, an adventure across the globe I long to return to, and you just returned from. A desire to belong again, you'll share to any ear, even if no one understands the denotations of your words. The wishes I write within my poems are inferred. So many love you, and I am so alone and tired. but you've had to fight off hot tears too. Thus, I welcome the enveloping night and look up at the moon, luminescent and whole, for nature's sign that we are all together. The message of your impromptu song. We survived this day. Tomorrow will be good.
Well, that's it. My mom just said one day at a time, one day at a time, one day at a time. That's Jennifer Elise Wang. Yes, the moon as the lighthouse. I love the image. Thank you for bringing that to the program today. That's our featured poets for today. Let me move us quickly right along to our waiting list so we get in as many as we can before the 90 minutes. First up, Lighthouse to all poets. Don Krieger.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, everyone. You said it earlier, a person can be a lighthouse. To save a life is to save the world. Early in the 2016 American football season, Colin Kaepernick and then other players kneeled during the national anthem to protest police brutality. An A student and All-State, you went cheap to Nevada, where you shined. On the block, again 4 years later, you brought top dollar to go pro. To the fans now, you're ingrate or hero, gifted, beautiful in your tight pants and plastic armor, ripe for the blow that will break your neck. When we stand for the anthem, you kneel beneath the yoke and cry out, "No more." If the field announcer called us to remember the dead as you do, one at a time, would we kneel with you, we who count murders on a scoreboard? Would we remember the dead as you do? One at a time, each a mighty blow which moves the world.
That's Don Krieger doing what Don Krieger does best. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I'm going to read a very quick poem for you all, sonnet, based on something that took place in Halifax, Nova Scotia, December 6th, 1917. This is called Halifax, 1917, Then and Never Again. When I contemplate her face as producing that smile, that outward manifestation of her breath, I travel inside my own complicated anatomy, induce what I can to give back to this love-scorched earth. What was it that Shakespeare said about love? Love is a smoke and is made with the fumes of sighs. The threat of morning fog inhabiting the cove is why the lighthouse keeper sleeps all night restless in the tower. But what of that man-made fire that burned the harbor down? Who could have anticipated two ships colliding into a tirade like that? One that conflagrated the properties of fate and stole the air from the lungs of 2,000 lives in one horrific breath. All of Halifax inhaled smoke and either woke to the nightmarish hot sun surviving their dreams outside steaming windows, or never broke from their sleep. I tell myself this story again, why? To keep the fire inside me from burning its death-defying lie. That's Halifax, 1917, Then and Again and Never Again in Boats for Women. And next, we'll hear from my good friend from Limerick, Kathryn Crowley. Kathryn, we're coming to Limerick in April.
Oh, brilliant, Sandy. I've moved, but I'll go to Limerick in April.
Okay. Well, we're coming to wherever you are.
All right, girl, I'm in Kerry now. You can come over. Brilliant. I love to listen to everyone, but I haven't been writing in chat because I can't handle it. So I just listen, because if I try to comment in chat, I get overwhelmed. But I've loved listening to everyone. No title for this, so if you guess what it's about, I'd love your suggestions for a title. I wrote it today, kind of. Have you found the white crow feather, the spider's splayed limbs floating on the sea's meniscus, as moss, the oldest witness, hums to the music of forest fern spirals? When you are jaded and copy the birds, picking up crumbs from the bubbling shoreline, let's not pretend you're a lighthouse. You burn flesh just like jagged rock, and unlike the seagull's ballet in pursuit of the trawler's fish, your hunger is insatiable. When will light dance in your eyes? Thanks, everyone.
That's Kathryn Crowley. Thank you so much. Folks, put your titles in the chat. Fantastic. Good to see you. We'll see you soon. See you in a few months. Well, next we'll hear from Ann Myles. Welcome back, Ann. And folks, I want to just remind you, Ann has a new collection out. Ann read from here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry in our new book showcase earlier this fall. Awesome to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to be reading not from my new book, but from a chapbook called What Woman That Was, Poems from Mary Dyer. Mary Dyer was an amazing, amazing woman in history, a Quaker martyr in 17th century New England, who is someone who I have a long and complex relationship of thinking about and identifying with, that this book deals with, not just her life, but my feelings about her. And she was really, I would say, a lighthouse for me, particularly in the years after 2016. And sometimes I miss being able to still write poems about her. I'm going to read one poem from late in the book, and it's called Children of Light, which is a phrase that was the early Quakers used to describe themselves. And of course, they were very much focused on the inward light. And it's dated Boston 1660 and Iowa 2021. And it's about her going to the scaffold. They preached the light of Christ, the light in our consciences, immediate, knowable, sure. This is what you hastened to die for, and for those who embraced it. I stopped believing years ago, yet always here I am, drawn back to images of light, its pure suspension of human wondering. Let there be a face in it or not. For me, it wasn't Christ's. There was a woman's once until I made myself turn. Let there be love in it or not, to find and lose again. I think of light's slenderness, the way it twists through moving branches. The day turns warm, then cool in a moment. We extend our open palms in it to receive something we can't touch. The last sublimation of fire, filling the emptiness we breathe in, falling on land and water alike in a passion of indifference, angled this way and that as if with meaning, burning the world into outline so perception carves us with its blade, pain that can feel like salvation. You saw yourself and thought about the word. I see myself and think of words, of the desire that they might have the quality of light, telling no coherent story, but arresting things as they appear in their clarity and mass, worlds without and within. I picture you balanced there upon the scaffold that June morning. There was only a minute left, and your mind loud with the dinning of your martyr's tale. but I see light surrounding you in its terrible plenitude, on leaves, on grass, on bodies, vast as the time between us, yet the same as in this moment, piercing brightness, infinite and beyond mercy, now before we step into air.
Oh, that is quite the poem. That is Anne Myles, everyone. And oh, I hope we get to hear more poems from that chapbook. Thank you, Anne. I'm going to move us along because I want to get to everybody on the wait list, and we've got 3 more to go. Kathryn Ronan, you're up next. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
New collection. Yes. Elemental Skin, welcome.
Elemental Skin, and oh my God, as we say in Cork, and follow that. Anyway, this is a poem about my husband. It's very short. It's called, and I was very glad that theme's Lighthouse, because I said, oh, I feel a poem for this. It was called Lighthouse already. So Lighthouse. You know I love to run naked into the purple, squally, inky sea. You know I will use my last fingernail to climb aboard the splintered raft of shipwreck. You know music is never loud enough, wind never wild enough, gorse never rough enough, waves never high enough. But when heathen ebbs, seagulls witness salty sting, you are still there. The lighthouse, my lighthouse, you.
That's just got all the emotion around it. Ooh, all the energy. I love it. Fantastic. Thank you. That's Kathryn Ronan. New collection debuting, the debut collection debuting this month, right? Or just at the end of last month, but right now, Elemental Skin. And we'll be hearing from Kathryn. We'll be hearing from Kathryn in January's new book showcase, the beginning of our new season. Thank you so much. All right.
Revival Press for the
online. Revival Press, Limerick. Thank you. As always. Kate Wegrzyn is up next, and Kate has been with us, that beacon of light, since the beginning of time with Cultivating Voices live poetry. Thank you for being part of Lighthouse today.
What a wonderful welcome. And back in the day in 2020, when I started with Sandy and her sister, and her mom and dad too, that I read a story to my daughter, April 24, 2020, just about the time I was with you, Sandy. And we sort of liked it, and I had read it already, so I knew what her intrepidation was. And so it was perhaps a girl in trouble meeting up with an elderly man. But no, life isn't what you always think it's going to be. So I'm sharing with you all, not a book that I wrote, but it's The Snow Goose. Okay, so this book, The Snow Goose, it was written by Paul Galecko, a New Yorker. Yeah. Okay, so he wrote this beautiful book, and it's very short. First, it was published in 1941 and reprinted right up to 1971, when I was a young woman coming into my own, packing up and leaving my house. So yes, Philip Brydges lived in the Lighthouse, and there was a young blonde girl, Frith, who had wandered to his lighthouse and started making her time away from her home to be at this lighthouse. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience to read about it. And I hope you think about getting the book. So I will move. It's been a long time since I've been speaking. So in the 60s, my mother loved to visit the lighthouses up and down New England, down into New Jersey, but up in Cape Cod, we were up there. But my father always warned, oh, Mimi, the kids are going to slip. It's such a high rise, and the rocks that you climb to go up to it, because back in the 60s there wasn't as much fenced off or roped off areas. It was free, you know. There were 5 of us kids. My poor mother and father, they disagreed about everything. Okay, so here we are, from Cape Cod to Barnegat Bay, going to lighthouses. Oh, my father's fear for our safety. Oh, we could fall off, we could hurt ourselves, always in conflict with mother's sense of adventure. Oh, Stanley, this will be safe. Oh, careful going down the steps, leaping off the sand dunes. Once I twisted my ankle and said nothing. As a habit, falling off my bike, doing acrobatics. I said nothing. I hid my scraped knees. Why? Because my father wouldn't let me do anything. I changed my shoes on the way to school in the 6th grade because they made me wear orthopedic shoes, and I was a wild one. So there you are. I had the confidence of a spinning top. I had the confidence of a girl that could do anything, always being downplayed by the boys, but wanted to be everything that they could be. So Mom allowed me to join the acrobatics. There was the trapeze and the hoops and the harness that they'd put on to teach you how to flip over. And then it was the truck. It was driving the truck in the parade. And my teacher knew that I was incredible with balance. Oh, yes, he kneeled down in the back of the truck. He put his hands out and he lifted me back up onto his shoulders. And there I was in complete balance. And I could hear Stanley saying, "Good Lord, Mimi, what did you do? Let Kathy get down from that truck." And I stood with my arms out in complete balance as the truck passed by my father. He did die of a heart attack, but I don't think I was the reason. Bless you all.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. That's Kate Wegrzyn, everyone. And that was back on April 24th, 2020. That was my birthday. That reading happened. There it is. There it is. Thank you. Thank you for that birthday present. And thank you for the gift of you always. Thank you, my friend. See you soon. Well, our final reader today, we're just a moment after the 90 minutes. Let's get our final reader in for today on the wait list. Charlene Neely, so good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. This poem, I'll make it very short. It's from my book, The Lights of Lincoln. And we had a program here where they did 56-foot light bulbs and they decorated them. It was magnificent. They auctioned them off for the Lighthouse project, which was a house where high schoolers could go after school, spend time, play games, get help with homework. So it was a wonderful place. This is one of the light bulbs. And this is my poem about it. Life is a macadam road filled with small bumps that in our minds become molehills and even mountains. There will be dark days when we will raise our hands and scream again and again. But with the lighthouse standing with us, those days will be fewer until we can stand on our own and take a giant leap into the future. And thank you.
Absolute perfect closing to today's program. Our Poets Focus today. Thank you so much, Charlene Neely. I love that story. It's our Poets Focus on Lighthouse today. And I want to just say, we created this reading in honor, she doesn't know it, but Kim and I were intentional creating this reading in honor of my mom's birthday. It's tomorrow. So this is one of her birthday presents, was a reading on Lighthouse. Happy birthday.
Thank you for using.
Thank you very much. Everyone, thank you to all of our poets and to our listeners today. We heard at the top of the hour from Amy Berry, David Brydges, Ken Burch, Isaac Cohen, Gordon Ferris, Billy Brown, Kim Ports Parsons, Saige England, Kim Tedrow, Gary Lilley, Diane Knox, Jennifer Elise Wang, Don Krieger, a little poem from yours truly, Kathryn Crowley, Ann Myles, Ronan, Kate Wegrzyn, and we closed out the light with Charlene Neely. Folks, would you unmute for a moment and show your deep appreciation for every one of our lighthouses today? Thank you so much.
Whoa.
Bravo, bravo.
We did it, Kim. We did it.
Grateful to all of you for your incredible words.
Incredible. Well, folks, as I mentioned, our Poets Focus today on Lighthouse opens up our December season of light. And next week, we bring you our new book showcase with 4 light-filled poets: Lana Hechtman Ayers, Felicia McCarthy, whose new book, My Country is the Whole World, has just come out from Salmon Poetry. We'll hear from Joanne Clarkson reading from her book, Hospice House. And we will also be joined by Poet Laureate Emeritus from Rockport, Massachusetts, Sue Ellen Whitmore, whose book is A Fixed White Light, Poems of Women Lighthouse Keepers. So keep the faith, everyone. Keep the light this week. Join us next week for our new book showcase. And also keep on the horizon out there, December 17th. It's our holiday poetry open house, as I like to affectionately say, our Hope-Po-Oh reading, which will be a candlelight vigil for peace in the world. That's it for today, everyone. All the light that we cast out into the world and the energy from your world to our worlds here on Zoom. I thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the program, all of our Lighthouse readers and all of our Lighthouse listeners. Everyone, have a very, very solid, supported week. Look for light where you can. Look for light where you can in this world. And as I say every single week to you, take good care of yourself. That's the best way you can take exquisite care of your beloveds. And keep writing those light-filled poems. I'll see you next week.